How's it going, everybody? So I pride myself being an educational channel and all, but then at the same time when I look at the stage of the average For Honor player and just in general, what I do see on an almost daily basis in terms of quote-unquote normal gameplay from people that I meet in matchmaking, I sometimes question why it is like that. I've done these little tips videos in the past, and maybe that is a more digestible form compared to the in-depth videos with detailed explanations. I'm not saying that I will stop making them, far from it, but I've lamented this in the past that the knowledge of the average For Honor player is just abysmal, to put it nicely. Oftentimes, these tips are outdated rather quickly as they are based on not intended interactions that lead to confusion, and there's work on players. So we will stick to more general game approaches now that will be applicable for a long time, hopefully. In a lot of cases, it is simple things that are completely logical if you just took the time to briefly think about it. So let's start with the first tip then, something that should be obvious to most people. Only gank with 2 people. Stop throwing bodies on a single person in the hopes of killing them faster. This would require you to understand the basics of revenge and the tag system, which sadly most people do currently not possess. And like I keep promising, the revenge guide is in the works. But the point stands, and you don't need to know the exact details here. Everyone should be aware that 3 people feed way more revenge than 2. On top of it, hit stun damage reduction severely cuts into your damage output, no matter how big your hits are. All you do is feed more revenge while doing less damage. You think you're helping, but you're actually not. Instead, take a look at the map, get yourself an overview of where all your opponents are. How many of them are currently dead and will respawn soon? Is your current location going to be reinforced by more opposing players? Meaning you should stay here, or should you rotate towards another objective, as that one's wide open and will require you to help there? This is such an incredibly simple concept and plays exactly into the stalling mechanic that we see so much. That single person that you attempt to gank with 3 people is doing great, as he occupies a lot of people at the same time. And even if you're using proper ganks, chances are they'll get revenge at least once. So next time, instead of mindlessly throwing top heavies into someone's external guard, take a second and actually realize that you're playing an objective based mode, and then act accordingly. But I'm just playing casually and want to fight, well then continue being a detriment to your team and accept that you and your approach to the game is the reason you probably lost. So what if your team actually has control of the map and you can stay there and help gank? Well, then this brings us to tip number 2. If you have a neutral unblockable, I guess normal heavies do work as well, but unblockables tend to do the job a bit better. Basically, you spam your opponent with indicators, making it much harder to defend because of how the Art of Battle system handles external attacks. The important part here is that you do not touch your enemy. You do not want to add a revenge tag, nor feed more revenge. You're just there to mess with that person's indicator system. You will not get a kill, not get an assist, and not even get renowned for it. But you will have helped and not messed up anything like the other clown that just came in with his running attack. In general, if you are not familiar with how to effectively gank, I've made a whole video explaining the basics, as well as gone into detail for multiple characters that lend themselves for that type of playstyle. The difference between doing the right and the wrong thing in For Honor are obscene. It can lead to a massive swing in momentum of a fight. A fight that was pretty much won, all of a sudden turns into an anti-gank because someone fed revenge. Which brings us to tip number 3. Know when to disengage and go to heal. You are of no use to anyone in a fight if you stand on the sidelines with your 10 HP, hoping that your teammates will still somehow carry this fight. Instead of wasting everyone's time, you just run to your home point or whatever other place to heal up and then join the fight again. This is also on your teammates to let you run away safely. If you play with friends, then communicate to them that you require healing, so they can back you up and stop opposing players from chasing you. There are some heroes that have excellent chase, which you will most likely not outrun. A shaman can easily catch up to you, for example. And it is highly unlikely that you win a fight against a competent shaman player while on less than a bar of HP. But what do you do when there is no point to heal? You have 5 HP, 2 of your teammates are dead and the opposing team is double boosting. Yes, correct, you are going to kill yourself. Go find that next ledge and jump down. That way you will not feed renown to the enemy, and most important of all, You won't run around doing absolutely nothing productive. It's as if you have an extended death timer, because that's pretty much what you are in that situation. I'm aware that normal matchmaking will rarely have matches where this actually matters, but thinking about it logically, this is the correct way to play that scenario. Next, not so much a tip, but a very needed clearing up of a misconception that came with the Core Combat update. The removal of delayed attacks. I keep seeing people that say this. We need to make a distinction here. The Core Combat update did not remove the ability to delay attacks. What got removed was that delayed attacks would show less of an indicator, aka speed up the attacks. Attacks are consistent now, no matter whether you buffer or delay. But you can still delay, meaning you can change the time between attacks. This is different on every hero and on every attack chain. Why is this still important? Well, a lot of people need to make reads now to deal with attacks. So by delaying your chain light on Berserker, for example, you can shift the parry window, which can, in theory, lead to your opponent parrying too early. It is still a viable tactic on some heroes, and people need to stop saying that delaying is no longer a feature, because it very much still is. If you need more Berserker tips, Yellow made a Zerker guide just recently, so check that one out. There will be a link in the video description. And as a last tip, we're going to look at punishing executions. A lot of executions move you out of luck, which means that you can get specific punishes off. I've gone over this in a separate video in the past, explaining which moves retain the out of luck state. There are also in-game settings that play a role here. So next time you see someone try to pull off a long execution, you don't just throw a random light or GB to punish it, but actually use the correct out of luck punish. Every single one of my updated punish videos has these included, and knowing them can give you quite an advantage in scenarios like these here. Executions are also tested on a case-by-case basis, whether they follow your lock-on settings or not. In general, people should be more aware of when an opponent is out of luck. Moves like Stampede or Crashing Charge, for example, also allow for extended punishes. But that's it for now. Let me know if any of these were helpful to you and your gameplay. I see so many people run around like headless chickens, never once using their brains to think about what would be the most beneficial action. Most things are quite logical, other times it needs some spelling out for people to realize it. Whatever the case, I hope you found these tips helpful, and if there is anything in here you want a more in-depth look at, or have other things you're struggling with, please let me know. Thanks for watching. Latest everybody.